understand French, so I just got like a half of this thing, but it was amazing. And I guess the gist of all that I was able to understand was about the how it was encouraging for the students and how engaging. And I guess that was a theme that was common across. And that made me think like, teachers have that so much power. It's like, I feel like proud that I am in that career, that we can make a difference. So we are really looking forward to listening to some more ideas, sharing with you, and reflecting on what has happened in the back, like looking back and looking ahead, like thinking about like what are the things that we would like to take forward when things are changing. Some of the logistical things we will have to end this session like a bit early, like we can't have more after chat time because we have another session lined up. That's for school leaders, or if you're like an admin, we have a cafe and conversation at 11:30. And afternoon, we have a brilliant content creation workshop. So some of the staff members at Brilliant Labs, we have taken that internally. Our brilliant staff members, Nelly and John Parent, are going to lead that. I really enjoyed it, having done that session before. So you can join us. It's going to be really amazing, especially now when all of us, educators or non-educators, are in a situation where we have to think about different ways to get our ideas across. And that's when the content creation is so important, because how can we make it more engaging and meaningful for our audiences and for ourselves? So that's ahead, lined up in the day.
Alicia, you're absolutely, I'm going to be cutting you off, but if you have yet to be introduced to Nelly and John, but Nelly has some incredible maker-based DIY solutions for any of you educators to even start to think about multiple camera angles, including using a dish drying rack or an oven rack as a mount for your camera. And I hope I'm not giving, I know I'm not giving too much away, because her dedication and enthusiasm is going to capture you. She's our host of our Maker Fun community TV program, of which there are 7 episodes, not only streaming on our own YouTube channel, but from Manitoba East, across now 3 providers. So it's just an incredible amount that you can learn for brilliant content creation. Sorry, Alicia, back over to you.
All, I was just gonna say like this, people can check out the YouTube channel for looking at like these amazing videos. And I have to mention, like Natasha and Jacob like just wrapped up the cafe, so it's like I'm like, maybe I should give them like a screen break. It's great to have you, and thank you for staying in and joining this conversation. Would you like to share something, Natasha?
No, I'm kind of excited to start this conversation. Also, you pretty much had the gist of all the Francophone session. And one thing that I found also that linked all the projects that were shared within our Francophone community this morning was the community aspect of every project. Add the community somewhere involved. Either community helping out coming into the school and being offering demonstrations, and to also having the communities sharing and hosting some of our students within their spaces. So it was very different. So that to me was very inspiring this morning, all the community-based projects.
Thank you, Natasha. And I know we are all waiting for the ideas, so let's not waste any further time and begin. I guess, Jacob, you can either give me the presenter right, or if you can just put this slide
Alicia,
deck.
I thought that was already done. Promote to moderator. There you go.
All right. So I'm gonna just...
I'll just give you a moment to get your screen shared there. A reminder.
But meanwhile, I can share that I put based on the slide we're sharing, if you look at the shared notes, that's where you will see people who have shared. So it's kind of like a sequence for us to run this session. And I think, Brian, your slide is the first. Are you there? Oh, I see your name. So feel free to, while I'm like putting the slide deck, but yeah, you can introduce yourself and I'll just pull out your slide. Okay. Brian, is this your slide or? Yeah, great. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, there should be an unmute button. Oh, I guess maybe you joined in as listening. So why don't you refresh your page? Yeah, and then you can join in with the audio. Thank you, Travis. It's great, like we've all like learned to like troubleshoot with this platform, and this is the first time we've used it this week, right, with everybody? So it's like fairly new to us as well.
Sorry about that. I just refreshed my page there. That's 100% my bad. I didn't realize there was different options. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let me turn my camera on too, so you can, so I can see, so you can see me, I guess. Okay, there's lots of options. Okay. All right, so yeah, this is actually my first Brilliant Lab, so I'm not sure what the process is, but I just threw this on there because I did a presentation earlier in the week on all this, but I just wanted to share because I think it's it's very applicable to other domains. So I'm a secondary math teacher, and this is something I discovered and have used extensively during the virtual learning component, and it's basically it's the teacher side of Desmos. So if you're a secondary math teacher, most of us are quite aware and use Desmos a lot in our practice, or GeoGebra, depending on where you went to school and what you learned. But those are two very powerful graphing, online graphing calculators. But there's this whole teacher side of Desmos where there's like these pre-built activities, and there are like, first of all, there's a bunch of pre-built activities that are interactive in nature, and it's a little Pear Deck, if you guys have used Pear Deck before. Where students click through at their own pace and they interact with different slides and different functionalities. So I built something for my PD a week ago, and so this presentation shared with everyone. I see the link there. So if they actually go into the presentation and click that link, and I don't know, for the purpose of this presentation, for people that maybe aren't comfortable, if you guys could also share it on your end and click the link and click the different stuff there. So I don't know if that's possible, or if you guys are like locked into your Google slide, but
sorry, can you repeat it? Do you want people to go and click and try it out?
So like I made it in the Google presentation there. Like these pictures are links themselves, and the actual Desmos example showing different functionalities. If they click that link and they open it up, it'll take them right to a lesson that kind of shows off the different tools and functionalities. So I think you can do that on your end, and because I know people have varying levels of comfort there, so some of them just kind of want to passively sit back and watch someone else do it maybe. So yeah, if you click it on your end, it'll take you to like a Desmos activity that will get you to just you don't even have to sign in. You can just write your name and start doing it. But and I'm not sure if this is what this what this is what we're supposed to do here. Again, this is my first Brilliant Labs PD session, so I just threw this on here. My apologies if I'm not.
It's nice to have you on board, and you've got to understand that at Brilliant Labs, you do what your heart tells you to do, and it's nice to see different strategies, and we want to see what teachers are doing in order to help and learn, and that's the whole goal of this. So you're doing awesome. I'd never heard of the Desmos.
Yeah. So if you're not in the secondary math world or the secondary science world, it doesn't come up as often. And there's other tools that people rely on, but this is one that is, the calculator itself is very powerful and very useful as a math teacher. But this teacher side is something that I knew existed, but I didn't really appreciate it until you're forced to educate online and give students something other than like a video of yourself teaching something or like a random worksheet. Like this is something you can use in lieu of it, and it's something I'm going to incorporate into the classroom.
That's amazing, Brian.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I can say. Like without having that in front of me to like click through like that. I see Alicia shared it in the chat there. But if you click on that, it'll take you to the link. Or it'll take you to the activity. You don't have to sign in. You can just choose to continue without signing in, and basically it's self-guided. Students, like there's a bunch of different different activities you can put in there. There's like card sorts, there's multiple choice questions, there's graphing calculators, there's ranked open-ended questions. There's something called marble slides where you make your own functions up. You make your, like, basically create graphs to catch stars that from falling marbles. And it's very like, it's both good and bad. Like, it's in terms of like its formatting, because like when you go to build your own activity, it doesn't give you much leeway in terms of like aesthetics. So like when you say, hey, I want a card sort, or hey, I want a marble sort or a marble slide, it just puts it in, and you can't really customize it like through fonts or through colors, but which is a good or bad thing depending on how much you like to invest in your aesthetics. But yeah, so that's all I can say without you know, clicking through the activity myself. But does anyone have any questions? Or
I have. Is it a free platform? Is it free?
100% free.
Okay.
100% free.
That's
You
cool.
just log in with the. I personally like to log in with a Google account, but I think you can actually make an account through Desmos. And
if, let's say, you as a teacher create an activity, can you share it with your colleagues, or is it something you can? So you can create activities that are like New Brunswick related or community based.
Oh yeah.
And all that.
Yeah, there's lots of there's a bunch of pre-built activities there as well. That, so you don't even have to take on making an activity initially if that's a little bit intimidating for you. So if you the actual picture there that I shared in the document is a link itself. So if you click that link, it'll just take you, or if you just click the picture, it'll take you to the Desmos teacher side, and there's like hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of pre-built activities that you can just generate a class code and get your students to start using right away. But there is the customize, make your own custom one functionality, which I would definitely advocate, you know, for playing around with. And you can see there on the bottom picture is what you see as the teacher. So as the teacher, you can see how students did. And that's the thing, like some slides are right and wrong, and some slides, like you as a teacher have to interpret. So like when you ask an open-ended question, Desmos can like mark that for you. But if you're doing a card sort or like a multiple choice, you can indicate what the correct answer is. So as a teacher, you can see how, and when students are actually actively on it, it will highlight on which screen they're on. So if you have a class, a live class that you're running, you're at, and it lends itself well to open-ended questions. Students can't really like cheat or copy one another, because like you just prompt them with a graph and say, hey, give me a systems of equation, give me a linear system with no solution. Like, you know, everyone is going to give you a different graph or a different set of equations. So it's a very powerful tool. The only thing that I find a little bit frustrating on my end is like I think about scaling all the time, and so it sync up with OneDrive or Google Drive, which I'm not a big fan of. It's literally housed on their platform there, so like you have to log into Desmos activities, and then like if you just have, you know, 2 or 3 activities, who cares? But like as math teachers, if you're teaching 4 different classes and you're doing activities for every single unit, and all of a sudden instead of 2 or 3 activities, you're talking about 200 activities. And so there's not really a great way to organize stuff right now. But I'd like just I don't know if you guys know about Pear Deck or anyone else knows about Pear Deck. Like I was using Pear Deck 5 or 6 years ago, and 5 or 6 years ago, Pear Deck was a lot like this, where it was on their own platform that you interacted with Pear Decks. And now it's 100% synced up with OneDrive or Google Drive. So if Desmos continues to go in that direction, I could see them giving in some functionality to, you know, organizing stuff on your cloud, so to speak. Yeah, sorry, I just feel like I'm talking into the void here.
Thank you, Brian. I guess that's amazing. I think it's one thing that is striking me is like how you discovered this, and I guess you sharing this with everybody, and a lot of people I hope will try and benefit from it. But we really admire you sharing these ideas, and despite of like this being your first time, so thank you again. And for the time, we have to move on to the next presenter. But if people have any follow-up, again, I put in the shared notes your contact, the one which was on the slide. So hope people can connect. If you would like to discuss, you can also like chat here. The next we have is Andrew. And Andrew and I connected with the Creative Learning chat too. He's also in Gatineau, does the Scratch Ed meetup. So I'm really looking forward to it. Andrew, are you here?
Yes, I am.
All right. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to just put on your slide.
Okay, great. Finding webcast. All right. Well, hopefully you can hear me. Just finding cam right now. So, yeah. So I'm based here in Gatineau, Quebec, and a technology educator, and I'm excited to integrate coding and technology in people's classrooms. And so I wanted to share a little bit about going beyond the tutorials with microbits and going, and my saying, or often people share out there, cardboard, or I like cardboard king, in the sense that you can be so creative with cardboard, and doing all sorts of different things with it. So I got an example here, a little micro carnival game that my son and I made. I guess I wouldn't say I happen to have nicely laser cut circles lining out of cardboard, but this was something that I had used in another project, and so I thought, well, this would be sort of remixing an idea that I had. So that's taken this, and it's easy for you to make a full cardboard, and then we had designed a little bit of stand, and used a microcontroller, the microbit, to create a little game. So I'll let you watch the YouTube video, or if you want, at least show.
I can show. I put it already here. I can show the clip if you would like.
Yeah, I'll do the whole 30 seconds maybe.
Okay, and welcome to my next little project that I created with my son during this quarantine self-isolation time period. So we had brought home, or I had brought home some tubing from work, just as a fun potential opportunity. And so I used it to create this little arcade style game. And so what we have here is we've got a microbit attached with the bit booster, and underneath, and I'll show you in a minute, we've got a Lego setup that is supporting our little turntable. And then over here we have a little chute that we can drop down our little Lego wheels to see if we get them inside those. So when I push button A, it goes at a certain speed, and then I can drop this down the little tube. Oh, I missed it. Now, if it's a little too challenging, we can press stop on this one. And then we've got button B, go a little bit slower, and then we try it again. Oh, you're right. Oh. All right, yeah, you grab the other one. Okay, so put it through. Oh, big winner, big winner. Oh, bounced off there. Try the last one.
Big winner, big winner.
Oh, all right, well, stop.
I was almost going for that.
Yeah, you're going for the center one? That's like 1,000 points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of how it works on the inside, we've got, or on the underneath, we just take this off, we can see that we've got a little setup here. And so this setup,
You want to pause it for a second?
it is,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, because I can just quickly explain it in a quicker time than my my video there. So, if you just want to close down the more video option there, there's like the pop-up that came up, the YouTube pop-up. Oh, that's on my maybe. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a little base that I created out of Lego, and it's got a single DC motor on there. So the board that I'm using is called a bit booster, but I know that the Brilliant Labs has the B board that would do something similar to this. The main thing is the microbit by itself isn't able to push or to control a servo by itself, but with an additional battery pack and the ability to do that. So with the bit booster, with the B board, with other add-ons that are available, you can do these sort of things. And once you're able to add a little bit more power to do stuff and you have some buttons, there's like so many creative and cool things that you can do that are just beyond, you know, let's do rock, paper, scissors, let's do some click counting. You can start to do some other cool things. So that's sort of my talk about like putting controllers and cardboard together, I guess. So yeah, just some cool things. I gotta share this because this is something that we just did this thing. So my son has got these little, I don't even know what they're called. They're like little garbage monsters or something like that. Anyway, he wanted to like put them somewhere, and I was like, okay, but he wanted to do it like drop it one at a time. And so I was like, okay, well, we have to create something for that. And so we had a little bit of cardboard hanging around because that's what, you know, when you, if you see my room here, it's like hoarding of cardboard and crap. Just don't tell my wife, right? So got some cardboard, and then we created like a little upper here. And then using some cardboard, we were able to make a release to let some of them go. So our first iteration, nothing fell down because, as you can probably understand, they're flat here. And so if a monster was just sitting on the edge, it wouldn't fall down the center. And so you probably can't see because of the lighting here, but there's like a little, I made it as a on an angle, so it would drop and force it down. So if I put them there, we'll see if moment of truth. Yeah, we got, you can see, well, there they go, all over the desk. So yeah, little thing to explore with cardboard. So, and you know, you don't have to be make amazing projects. It's just to get started and do it. You know, just challenge your students to get building, start cutting up, and you know, as long as they're safe and those sort of things. But yeah, getting into it. So I'll stop there.
Andrew, that is absolutely amazing. You have encapsulated so much of what we believe in here at Brilliant Labs and in the greater maker education community. For the sake of time, I won't go on a huge tirade of how significant all of the learning is in there for your son. I know you know, and likely many of our users here know as well. I am going to take the time, however, to put an additional plug in for our B-board and how proud we are. This has been made for instances exactly like you are describing. It has onboard 3 servo motor control. I know, can you grab it virtually? So right out of the box, this, I don't know if I'm allowed to show this right now, but I'm going to anyway. This is our latest iteration, and it's a prototype. So right out of the box, we have servo control and 2 onboard DC motor control that you can just slot your microbit in, and so you'll be able to do all of that, you know, with the B board as a helper board, no click boards required, NeoPixels. And what if I could control your son's or intervene and add a little layer, you know, that would need some sort of Wi-Fi connectivity. Oh my goodness, what's that on the back? An ESP chip. So please, for all of you who are interested in bringing in computational devices, if you're new to the microbit scene and you're wanting to get a little bit more, you know, sensory overload experimentation with your projects, let us know. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. That was amazing. And again, if you have any follow-up thing, feel free to use the chat, or I put the contact, and Andrew has a Twitter handle, so you can contact him directly. And check out the B-board. You can go to our website on the Brilliant Labs. And my former advisor would say that for kids, it's important to have things interactive and not engage with them very passively. Yesterday, Natasha was sharing about trampoline. So it's great to like seek inspiration from what's happening around. And we are in the world, or we were in the world, that things are very interactive. They have behaviors, they change. So I guess the computational thinking, if you integrate it, is an interesting way for your students to navigate that and explore these really complex ideas that can be mathematical, that can be art-based, that can be science-based, that can be linked with anything. Our next speaker is Jeff Henniger, and he's going to talk about design thinking, simple machines, and 3D printing. That sounds very exciting. Hi, Jeff. You're on mute. We can't hear you. Sure, we can wait.
While Jeff is figuring out his audio solution there. So Jeff, we're very lucky to have him on board with Brilliant Labs as one of our educators. Jeff, are you on now? No? So Jeff is based out of Nova Scotia. He's been a very long time early adopter of Brilliant Labs, classroom educator, and now is working full-time with us. I wish we had more positions available like that, but it's just a testament of how much growth and enthusiasm in this movement that you are all part of creating. So it's been a great turn of events, and I'm really interested in these vegetable cars that you have there. Jeff, you're very active on Twitter, so if you've yet to follow Jeff Henniger, no, sorry, bud. This is his first time using a computer in his life, so...
Yeah. Does it make sense if we have Lisa who's next, and meanwhile Jeff we can figure out? So that sounds great. Hi, Lisa. So I guess you are next, and Jeff will have an opportunity to fix and troubleshoot this stuff. Hi.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I work out of Anglophone North for Brilliant Labs. So I travel around to different schools, and there's lots of project ideas that I could have chosen, but I picked stop motion. It seems to be a popular one with kids of all ages. We have a couple of examples up there. These were done by, the first two were done by grade 2-3 students. So you use an iPad. That's basically the thing that we use is an iPad. You can use clay, you can use felt. The bottom image is from a grade 5 student, and she did a research project on bees. So she used clay to make her bumblebees in her garden. But the thing is, with it, you can go as complex as you want, or you can be as simple as you want with stop motion. So the bumblebee one, she actually created, we imported it into Movie Maker, and she talked a little bit about the bumblebees and how they're being threatened. So hers was more about the endangerment of it. The owl project in the upper right hand, hers was just felt, and it was a research project that she did on owls. So we imported that one into iMovie or into Movie Maker as well. And the little girl talked about her owls and what they eat and so forth. So you can really bring a lot of writing skills, script writing, collaboration, and kids work together to make the clay move while one takes photos. It's a great project that kids can do from home as well. So if something happens, and keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well this coming fall, but it would be a good project for kids to work on from home. They just need a tablet, even an old mobile phone that parents aren't using anymore. You can download, connect it to your Wi-Fi, download the app. The app that I would recommend is Stop Motion Studio. It's free. There is a paid version, but in the schools, we've been just using the free version and importing some of that stuff into either iMovie or Movie Maker. So everything, all the other information is there, but again, it can be as complex or as simple as you want to make it. So, and there's some key tips. Big thing, hold that device steady, or we've got a tablet in the bucket, and Jacob had mentioned earlier about some things that Nellie uses. Could be a boot rack or a boot tray with the little holes in it, whatever you can do if you're taking photos downwards. Yeah, so there you go.
Alicia, I've been an admirer of your stop motion work with students for, well, since you and I joined. Can you just briefly, these are all great, and we want to see if we can get Jeff back. Can you talk a little bit about how you've integrated other complexities, like other computational media forms, like your Makey, and how students have still remained in that stop motion, but they've added in different materials?
Okay, so with this one here, with the stop motion, we didn't use Makeys with these ones, but some of the projects that the kids have done in place of stop motion. So for example, the grade 2-3 class that that worked with the animal projects, they did stop motion as a choice. We had other students use Makey-Makeys as a choice. So it was, again, the students research, got their information gathered, and then they chose some sort of a medium to present. So that was kind of a key there. There was a choice factor in it. And some kids wanted to do stop motion. Others wanted to use Makey-Makeys, create interactive displays. So for example, with the little girl with the owl on the right, she could have easily used a Makey-Makey, scratch, and added audio to her felt display and made it more interactive.
That's awesome. I'm reminded of the First Nations narrative storytelling from years ago, with even the LED and the stop motion for the fire. And there were some great things that they did. That's true. They did use the LED light and did some stop motion with that to light it up. So great way to add an effect. So again, it's good for kids, elementary kids, lower primary block, right up to high school. So think of the complexities that high school students, you could do math type based stop motions. I've got some ideas there. You can use clay, paper. I had students use little cars, like cars and those stick bots, put it on a green fabric, and then brought their stop motion into iMovie later. They made a car chasing scene. It was phenomenal. They went out, they did all their own content, took pictures on the street. So when they brought their own street scene in, it looked like the cars were actually, chasing and following each other down the street. So again, as simple or as complex as you want to make it. I should say the kids want to make it.
That's so amazing. What I like about the way you're saying that there's like a tactile component, like working with hands, and also a digital component. And it kind of make the animation more like kind of blended fantasy yet real. I guess storytelling, again, is a very powerful medium. And did you notice that the students were like creating these based on some of the things that they have seen? Like, did you notice like evidence of that? Like,
So for example, the boys that did the car chase, that was a passion of theirs, and they were coming into the makerspace. They did it as an extra activity that they wanted to do, but they just kept coming in, and they worked on it for, I'm going to say, almost a year. And the following fall, some other kids picked up on it and added some more elements to it. I tried to find that one, but in all my photos, I couldn't find the link to it. But the students get to pick. There is a grade 5 group, the ones that did the bumblebee. In that class, another girl, she did hers based on a snippet of a story from Lemony Snippets. I'm not even going to attempt to say it, but she did a little snippet of a story and the unfortunate events or whatever. So you could do just about anything. You can, put your twist on a story. You can create your own story. Great for writing and storytelling as well.
I think stop motion is going to be an excellent platform for students to continue to explore. Alicia, as you were saying, this blended version of reality, between virtual and physical, because it's so.
Show them a little bit about how to take the photo with the app, but then give them some time to explore and get them to play back their movie. I say to the kids, you've got to keep that iPad still. It can't move. So when they play back their movie and they'll see like a lot of movement from the iPad itself, we'll go back in and then I'll work with them and show them, like, if you keep it absolutely still, let's redo this piece of scene. And once they see the difference between the video with the iPad moving, it's like, oh wow. So they really try hard now not to get it to move. So don't let them do a whole movie before they look at it.
That's such a great tip. For the sake of time, we have to move forward, and it's amazing like how people are sharing kind of are inspiring other people to share. So while Jeff I think he's still having some trouble, but we have Melanie and Peter. So let's start with you, Melanie. Thank you for sharing the link. Let me try if I can pull it out. But meanwhile, just introduce yourself and I'll see if I can pull out your project here.
Well, it's a video, so it doesn't so if people want to see it. So what we did as a project, it was with my grade 2 art and my grade 6 art and some math, English grade 8 math. So what they created was a Christmas tree that had different aspect to it. So the mat was the cardboard built Christmas tree. So we gave them that they had to figure out we had the lights, and they had to figure out what size of a tree, the circumference they had to fit the lights on. And then, like, even just a star, we didn't think it was a map thing, but they figured out that it was a triangles with like the and then they did it that way. So that was the math teacher. I don't teach math, but so that was the math teacher. So we had like the advanced kids, or even one that was struggling, but was really hands-on. So he was like taking the lead on that, how to build it. And and they had to figure out how to cube, how to make it hold and stuff like that. And my grade 2, they're the one that coded the lights with the help of my grade 8 kid. So in the star, like the microbit, the name of the kid would show up, and then they did patterns in math in grade 2. So they created a pattern, okay? So what they did is with their little cardboard, they created a color pattern that they had to already prepare, and then they came to the grade 8 student, and with them, they worked on their loop that was going to be added to the code. And so each time you would switch student, they would write their names on the top and then code the lights. And then they created, we worked in the art class, we worked on circuits and how they could create lights in their artwork. So we created the snowman ornament. It was supposed to be snowman ornaments, but they became snowman on the side. We don't see them, but they were on the side of the tree because they were too big. So it was snowman, and they had lights on it in the picture. So it's like a picture frame thing. And then my grade 6 created stained glass ornaments. So we got pre-made stained glass, not pre-made, like already cut shapes. So what they had to do is in their math class, with their math teacher, they figure out in a grid layout, they had an amount of size. I think it was 8 by 8 they created, and then we figured out it was too big. So next time it was too big. But and then with these little pieces, they draw what they wanted. And after that, they did a real stained glass. Everybody was like, "You're doing real stained glass?" So they did real stained glass with the soldering iron, and then they had all of those ornaments. And then my grade 7 and 8s really wanted to, so I had it in my room. And when they were in my science class, if they had each could take their turn and go work on that when they could. So they created their own thing, and that's the project.
Melanie, this is incredible. I wanted to quickly ask you, when your students presented this and shared it, because I'm sure there are so many people who came across and are like, "What is this that you're making? This is amazing." Did you find that their knowledge, their competencies, all of the teacher talk that we would normally ask them, how was that balanced with their enthusiasm for the project?
Like how they would like they're very enthusiastic, but they were very happy about doing it. The grade 2, I know, like just the lighting up the light, they were like amazed that the light up. Like they just had one light, and they were like, and then they could say, "Oh, that's the positive and the negative of the battery." And I know the grade 2 teachers were like saying to their parents, "Oh, our kid's coding right now." So they were very happy about that. The grade 8s with building the tree were able to say what they were doing, like oh, we're building this to do well, it's all in French, a circonférence, and like those things. And I don't know how much the grade 6 really could, like how they link it up to math and stuff like that, but it was with my art project, so it was about creating new tools and stuff like that. They were very excited and showing their project off. Like they would get other teachers to come in the room and show them their projects.
That's amazing. I have a huge fascination about the role of mathematics in maker settings, and I won't bore you with the 300 pages, but my research was based on all of this, and what I loved, one of the things that you said was, "I don't teach math," and it speaks to the interdisciplinarity of what your students are creating. It doesn't matter that they're not in a math classroom, and even Seymour Papert, if you're not familiar and you're looking for a summer book reading, His book Mindstorms, or my favorite is The Computer Machine. He speaks about how when he was designing this, the robotics for artificial intelligence and for students to explore like really early versions of Lego Mindstorms that it turned into, and he was a mathematician. The math that he wanted to see wasn't necessarily coming from the robotics in the math classroom. It was when he walked down to the art room and he saw the soap sculpture math. And what you're describing here is very similar. And so, your students were likely touching on outcomes that were in grade 11 and 12, or at least that's what I found in a similar cardboard experiments or maker project. So a huge thank you for really allowing your students to explore the role of mathematics in a project like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And we have Peter, you're sharing this story.
I have a model here too. Andrew was talking about projects and cardboard. This one's about plastic. And so in my robotics class, students have to make or come up with a project, a robot or a system that'll solve a real world problem. This group wanted to take water samples out of our pond and test them. And they ended up building this airboat. They had to figure out how to make a cone. They 3D printed that and the base. They had to figure out how to keep the microcontroller waterproof. So they got a candy plastic container and put 2 little holes in it for wires to go through. And then they figured out how to get the motor working. This project included engineering, physics, which engineering, I guess. A lot of frustration. And before, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday, I talked about failure being an option. They never finished this project, which to them was failure, but to me it was brilliant. They had radio control to get the airboat going out on the pond. That worked. I've taken all the motors off because we used them again since, but they made a little tail fin so they could direct the boat. They figured out the programming themselves. These were grade 12 students. 3 of the 4 were going are in engineering right now, and the others in computer science. So it was pretty high functioning group, I guess.
How long did they work on this project?
They worked 1 semester.
Okay.
So they worked from, that was a winter one, so February until June. And if we could have kept on going, they would have kept on going on it. They didn't want to, in their minds, fail. But they did some tremendous work. The learning that went on in the problem solving was probably for them the best education they got in 4 years in high school, because they overcame all the problems. They'd come to me and I'd steer them, but I wouldn't solve it for them. So there's in high school, students don't always get to solve problems, and this was a big one to help them that way. And it covered, I mean, they had a blog about it, and I was looking for the link to their blog, but I can't find it. I think
I'm super impressed that you already mentioned that in like high school, especially grade 12, like people are not doing these kind of maker-based activities because it's like a lot of pressure on the getting into college or the standardized testing. Despite of those constraints, I guess if you're able to open their mind, because those are the skills I guess college are being frustrated about, are like not, the children are not trained enough. And they come with this like these very set based things, but I guess you had that, like you opened their minds in that time that you had, and the failure about what you mentioned, I guess that's very inspiring.
Yeah, it's good for them to fail, some of those kids.
Peter, Andrew's asking a couple questions. What platform did you guys use? Is it Arduino or something else? And this was done in class.
We were using Arduino for these, so Cduino programming. I'm sure they went online and stole a little bit or borrowed a little bit of programming, but had to modify it to work for themselves. And Andrew's asking, was this a class or a club? It was a class that kind of turned into a club because they'd show up at lunch and after school to try and work on it.
When
I see doing it
last time to work on a project, you know that they're super engaged, and that's the learning that's exciting to see happen when it's, you know, yeah, awesome, cool, yeah. Thanks.
And these are the character qualities, the human attributes that employers and industry, anyone's looking for. You know, we can teach content, employers will teach content, you know, we will acquire content, but skill sets like perseverance and passion, these need to be not only expressed but practiced. And I mean, Peter, we've talked about this so many times before. It's so great that students have this opportunity. I hope that more students have this opportunity earlier than grade 12. And we've, you know, talked about that again, and I'm so excited to see these opportunities because, you know, by the time that they get into high school, imagine if this had been cultivated for 9 years until the point that they get there, what they can do. And we see incredible growth with that, but there needs to be more.
Amazing things, but we need to be mindful of the time. As we mentioned, there's so many sessions today, but this doesn't have to stop. If you think you still have more to share, feel free to share with Brilliant Labs. We can probably include all those ideas in the summary email with your contact. And again, you can share it on social media,